In this series, we're going to look at building feature-rich text encodings for Python. We're going to look at how we can encode text, because a lot of machine learning involves converting numbers into some kind of model. It doesn't actually deal natively with text. And there's a lot of research and time, millions and millions of dollars spent on compute power in order to generate some of these very rich and powerful text encodings. So today we're going to look at how we can combine various different approaches for encoding into our model and do it very, very cheaply. After all, why should we build something from scratch when we can simply steal? In this very first lesson, we're going to look at firstly just pulling in some data in order to do this task. And to do that, we're going to look at Stack Overflow. So for Stack Overflow, you can query anything you want via Stack Exchange Data Explorer. So here I have a query which pulls out just 500 posts that have the tag Python. So I've run the query here, and I am going to just download the CSV. All right, and I am going to call this python.csv. Right, and hopefully I can just copy this over. And the other tag that I'm going to use for my text classification problem is the R tag. So I'm going to just put in R, and hopefully we will get a whole bunch of queries related to R. So here, this will form our data set, and I want R. So this will form our data set, which we will use in order to build our text classification model. So let's see what we would do from here. So I'm going to create a CSV file called r.csv, and I'm just going to paste all of this in here. Oops. Right, and save. Okay, so the next thing is reading in this data. So let's try to read it in a very naive way, and let's see if Python can figure out how to do the multi-line. So let's start off by importing pandas. And we're going to read into two data sets. So I'm just going to call it df python is equal to pd.read csv python.csv, and dfr is equal to pd read csv r.csv. And let's see what happens when we run it naively. Okay, so let's have a look. df python.head. Yep, we can see that this is pulled out correctly. So next thing we're going to do before we jump into the machine learning part is building our modeling data set. So to build our modeling data set, I want all my text to be in one field. I'm just going to call it title and body, and then I'm going to concatenate both of them, and I'm going to add the label 1 for Python and 0 for R. So let's see how to do that. So I am going to firstly, it's equal to, so I'm going to call it text, and hopefully all I need to do is something like title plus df python body, and hopefully that should just work. I'm going to delete this cell, and from here we are also going to add our label, which is, I said it was 1. All right, and we're going to do the same thing for R. Label equals 0. Okay, so let's have a look at whether yeah, let's have a look at whether these things have appeared properly. So let's go to Python firstly. Let's have a look at our text and label dataset. Right, and we can see that that looks like it's worked correctly. And let's have a look at R. It's also looked like it's worked correctly. So let's build our full dataset. Equals pd.concat df python of I'm just going to say the columns that I want is text and label. So that should be columns. And for R it will be columns as well. So hopefully that will build my data set. And let's have a look. Alright, so that looks like that worked. But let's verify that the shape is correct. Yep, 1000, that looks correct as well in 2 columns. So there we have it. There's our modeling data set. Hopefully, hopefully this will be a interesting problem, and also maybe you learned something about using the Stack Overflow query exchange, so you can go and query some data and find some interesting things out of there. And we'll stop here for now and come back for next lesson where we'll look at how to build scikit-learn pipelines to run a TF-IDF model.